at an elite rooftop concert glittering with designer gowns, champagne glasses, and flashing cameras. The night was made for stars, not for girls like Emma. She stood quietly near the back in a simple dress, heart still raw from the breakup text. "You don't belong in places like this." Her co-workers spotted her. "That dress," one whispered with a smirk. "She actually showed up alone." Another laughed. A cruel nudge, a spilled drink. Emma stumbled, falling hard to the ground as laughter and phone cameras surrounded her. But on stage, Luca Ray, the heartthrob of the night, had been watching her all along. He stopped singing, set down his guitar, and said just one thing: "Stop the music." What happened next stunned everyone on that rooftop. The rooftop shimmered with privilege. Golden lights draped across marble columns. Designer heels clicked against glass tiles. Laughter rang out like champagne flutes clinking. It was a night for the elite, the kind of crowd where appearances were everything, and Mercy had no guest pass. Emma stood near the back, clutching her phone like it might still buzz with hope. It didn't. Her boyfriend, ex now, she supposed, had bailed with a single line: "You don't really belong in places like this." He was probably right. She didn't wear designer clothes. Her shoes had scuff marks, and her dress, though modestly pretty, was borrowed. Her hair had frizzed slightly in the wind, and she hadn't mastered the art of effortless selfies or air-kiss greetings. She was plain, ordinary, and heartbreakingly alone. As the crowd gathered near the stage, Emma drifted to the corner, hoping to disappear. Maybe enjoy the music. Maybe pretend for just one night that she wasn't utterly unwanted. Then the lights shifted, the air shifted, and he walked on stage. Luca Ray. Even his name felt like a song. The international superstar. The man whose voice could melt silence. Every eye turned toward him. Every camera lifted. Women leaned forward. Even the skyline seemed to pause. He stepped to the mic with ease, guitar slung across his chest, jawline sharpened by golden light. And he saw her, right there, in the middle of his opening song. His eyes scanned the crowd of diamonds and champagne and stopped. On her. Not because she sparkled, but because she didn't. She looked like something out of place, and somehow right. A woman wrapped in quiet sadness, a softness no one else noticed. Her eyes lowered, her hands nervously clasped, like she was holding her breath just being there. And she was beautiful. Luca's voice didn't falter, but his gaze returned to her again and again as he sang. A ballad about lost things. And suddenly, she looked like the meaning behind every lyric. He saw her flinch when her coworkers walked past. The women from her office were dressed to impress. Loud laughter, clinking bracelets, camera-ready smiles. And Emma? "Did you wear your high school reunion dress?" One of them whispered with a smirk. She smiled politely, tried to blend in. Another giggled. "Brave of you to show up alone." As Luca continued to sing, his eyes narrowed, not in anger, but quiet focus. He didn't miss a beat, but he was watching. Closely. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she reached for a drink. She tried to laugh with them, tried to pretend, but one of them, half joking, nudged her elbow. The glass tipped. Liquid spilled across her dress. She gasped and stepped back, her heel catching on the uneven paneling of the rooftop floor. And she fell. Hard. Her knee hit the ground with a sickening scrape. Her hand braced the fall, skin dragging against rough wood. Her borrowed dress twisted awkwardly beneath her. Laughter erupted from her friends. Someone actually clapped sarcastically. Phones came out. One girl snickered. "Oh my God, you have to get this. It's too sad." But the music stopped. On stage, Luca froze. He hadn't missed a single second. He'd watched it all. The cruelty, the fall, the way Emma tried to gather herself quickly, brushing her hair from her face, eyes wide with shame. She tried to stand. No one helped her, until a voice, low and steady, broke the silence. "Stop the music." It was Luca. The band looked confused. The crowd turned. Luca set down his guitar and walked off the stage. The silence was thick, not the kind that gently asks for attention, but the kind that demands it. Emma froze, still on her knees, tried to melt into the rooftop tiles. Her ears rang from the laughter. Her heart thudded like it was trying to escape her chest. Her scraped palms trembled. She kept her eyes down, too humiliated to look up. But someone was walking. Boots. Slow, purposeful steps against the wood-paneled stage floor. Gasps rippled across the crowd. Then murmurs. Wait, is he? Luca. What's he doing? The spotlight above shifted slightly, following a figure stepping off the edge of the stage. Security tensed. Phones raised. Screams burst out in every direction. Luca Ray was coming down. Fans swarmed immediately, their arms outstretched like vines, desperate to touch, to hold, to grab a piece of him. Hands clutched at his sleeves. People surged forward, some crying his name, some just screaming. But he wasn't stopping for them. His eyes were locked, ahead, unwavering, on one person. Emma. He moved through the crowd like it parted for him on instinct. Bodyguards flanked him, but even they struggled to keep pace. He ducked under someone's waving arms, brushed off a lipstick-smeared grab at his shoulder, but never turned his gaze away. Emma watched in frozen disbelief. He was coming for her. She backed up a step, confusion clouding her face. She couldn't understand it, couldn't believe it. But then he reached her, and in the middle of the chaotic crowd, half screaming, half stunned, he stopped right in front of her. She was trembling, but he saw it. He stepped closer. The noise fell away. He reached out, offered his hand. Her scraped palms hesitated, raw, shaking, but she placed them in his. He smiled, soft and steady. You okay? She nodded, too breathless to speak. He looked up, around at the gawking crowd, then back to her. Let's give them something they'll never forget. And then he held on, not guiding her behind him like someone to protect, but beside him like someone to stand with. They walked together through the stunned crowd, up the steps, onto the stage. The crowd was quiet now, confused, spellbound, unsure if this was real. Emma was in the light now. Her dress was still wrinkled, her shoes still scraped, her hair slightly out of place, but her back was straighter than it had been in years. Luca leaned toward the mic. She sang my lyrics, he said, eyes scanning the now silent room, with more honesty than I've heard in a long time. Emma's co-workers? Stone-faced, speechless. One of them, red with embarrassment, turned away. Another blinked, as if trying to wake up from a dream she wasn't invited to. Luca turned to Emma. You know the words? She nodded barely. Then sing them with me. Her breath caught. I can't. I'm not. You don't have to be perfect, he said. Just be real. He strummed the first chord. The microphone in front of her looked like a cliff's edge, but he was still there, looking at her like she mattered. And for once, she wasn't invisible. She opened her mouth. Her voice trembled. The first few words cracked. Someone in the audience chuckled. But then she closed her eyes and remembered the lyrics that helped her survive nights alone, heartbreak, being left behind. The song she sang to herself when the world made her feel small. Her voice found strength in the places where pain used to live. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. It was true. And as her voice rose, shaky but beautiful, the room went still again. Lucas smiled. The band joined in. Emma kept singing. And the rooftop sky above them, once so far away, felt close enough to touch. As the last note hung in the air, Emma's voice faded into a soft breath, the kind that comes after a storm you survived. The rooftop was utterly silent for a heartbeat, then erupted. Applause thundered from the stunned crowd. Not polite clapping, not the kind reserved for formality, but raw, honest and explosive. People who moments ago laughed at her were now standing, clapping, some even cheering. Security guards nodded with grudging respect. Waitstaff paused mid-pour to watch in disbelief. The sound echoed off the skyline, as if the city itself had paused to witness her rise. Luca clapped too, not just politely, but with both hands, a proud smile lighting up his face like the first sunrise after a long night. He leaned toward her again, his voice low, but his eyes bright. Told you they'd never forget you. Emma's cheeks were wet with silent tears, but she was smiling now, smiling like someone who had been seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. And somewhere in the back, her colleagues and so-called friends stood frozen, their expressions twisted in a cocktail of shock and sour envy. One of them, the same one who laughed when she fell, muttered under her breath, "Unbelievable." The others just stared, their clapping awkward, forced. They had lost the power to define her. But Emma wasn't looking at them anymore. She was looking at Luca, and he was still looking only at her. The band quietly faded into ambient music as Luca turned back to the mic. "You all came here expecting to see something perfect," he said, scanning the crowd. "But tonight, I saw something real. I saw someone stand up, literally, after the world tried to knock her down." He turned to Emma. "You didn't come here to shine, but you did anyway." She lowered her eyes, overwhelmed. Luca smiled, then turned to someone backstage and gestured. Suddenly, the lights shifted. Warmer, softer, romantic. Then music began, gentle piano, swelling like a heartbeat. And then, to everyone's stunned amazement, Luca bent down on one knee. The crowd gasped. Emma's breath caught. Luca, he didn't pull out a box. Instead, he did something that took everyone by surprise. He reached for his right hand, where he always wore a single silver ring, simple but known to fans worldwide. A ring he never took off, said to be passed from his mother, a symbol of love and protection. And slowly, deliberately, he slipped it off. Holding it out to her, he said, "I've worn this for years. It reminded me to wait for something real." "I didn't know it was waiting for you." Emma's hand flew to her mouth, trembling. He held the ring delicately between his fingers. "So now, I want you to wear it." She couldn't speak, could only nod, tears streaming freely now. He gently took her hand, still rough from her earlier fall, and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. The crowd erupted again, screams, sobs, applause, like a wave crashing in every direction. Luca stood, his eyes never leaving hers. "Will you let this be more than a moment?" he asked softly. "Will you let me walk with you? Not in front, not behind, but beside you?" "Yes," Emma whispered. "Yes." He pulled her into his arms. And just then, behind them, fireworks burst over the skyline, a planned part of the concert, now feeling like it was meant for them alone. The sky lit with color, but all eyes stayed on the couple center stage. The same girl who had stumbled, who had been laughed at and humiliated, now stood at the heart of it all, loved, celebrated, and chosen. Luca gently lifted her hand, kissed it, and said only loud enough for her to hear, "You were always the song." And as she stood there, wearing the ring that was once his, in the light she never thought she'd earn, she finally believed what her heart had been too afraid to dream. She was never too small. The world had just been too blind. We live in a society too quick to blame women when a relationship ends, as if her worth depends on being chosen, kept, or claimed by a man. But love failing is not a crime, and heartbreak is not a reflection of her value. We must stop shaming women for being left and instead start questioning a culture that measures their dignity by someone else's decision to stay. A woman is whole on her own. Her story doesn't end when someone walks away. Sometimes that's exactly when it begins. Subscribe for more empowering stories, and let us know for where you're watching this. We'd love to hear your thoughts.